What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. I'm Samantha Croston. We have Dan Papillo here on the mic tonight. Ashley Wenskowski off on vacation. We appreciate you guys for joining us so much. We're both actually in our own homes right now in spaces. Dan has the Mets flag, so feeling a little bit impressed by that and a little bit behind you. Hi, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I feel like I decorated for the occasion. Where's your Mets apparel?
Maybe you haven't heard this, but the Mets season is over. So we're going to talk about the Dodgers and Phillies instead, if that works for you.
Yeah, that works. We'll make it
All
work.
right, we'll do it. We'll do it. The Dodgers are headed back to the NLCS, y'all. It was a game 4 victory. Dodgers win the series over the Phillies 3-1 at home in one of the wildest endings that you will ever see. I truly was gasping from my couch. We're going to go through some of the stuff inning by inning, but we have to really start at the ending. This was unbelievable. Phillies bring in Orion Kerkering, try and get this game into the next inning. This game was in extra innings, bottom of the 11th at this point. And the game ends on an error. Kerkering gets a little bit clammed up, I think, because he lost control of the ball for a second. Pages essentially hit it to him and he overthrew it to the catcher. Realistically, he would have been able to just throw it to first base, but I think under pressure, he just got scared, confused, nervous, and oh my God, the Dodgers won this game on an error. They won the series on an error.
Yep. And you look at a series like this, and especially a game like this, it was a pitcher's duel the whole way through. Usually mistakes are what lead to a team winning each
Mhm.
game. And in this sense, it was a little dribbler back to the plate, but there were two outs. Kerkering could have thrown it to first. He had plenty of time to get the out. But like you said, the panic in that moment, he realized, oh, I got to make a play right now. Threw it home, very wild, and that's how the series ends, and that's how their season ends. Absolutely ridiculous, and almost very Mets-esque is kind of how I saw it.
Right? The Phillies are getting a taste of what it is like to be a Mets fan. Dude, and it is rare that I say this. I genuinely feel bad for that guy. If you are like a Phillies fan or not a Phillies fan right now, I cannot even imagine the sports talk that is going on in that city right now. Listen, the Dodgers were a better team. I went on this podcast a few days ago and said I thought it was going to be over in 3 games. I truly did. Philly showed me something last night, but to end it in this way is just heartbreaking. And I don't really want to hear people saying, well, the Dodgers were bound to win either way, because I did feel like there was that vibe and that sense like the Dodgers were going to win. No, when you go out like that, not only is Kerkering going to have that memory for the rest of his life, Phillies fans are going to remember that. The Phillies players are going to remember that. That was a bad, bad end.
That is a disgusting end, and like you
Awful.
said, heartbreaking way to end the season. But you look at the series from a whole, right? It was kind of heartbreak from the Phillies from the jump. They went up early in game one, ended up giving up that three-run homer to Teoscar Hernandez to blow that one. Then the second game, the Dodgers pull off that wheel play to get the out at third base. They did a really good job at locking it down late when the Phillies were rallying. They show some heart in game three. And then game four, they just couldn't score. And the biggest thing throughout the series, especially for Philadelphia, was those top five guys Turner, Schwarber, Harper. None of them could come through in big spots, and it eventually cost them.
I also just have to say, on the other end, if you're Pajes, what a truly fascinating moment. Like, I was kind of just sitting on my couch laughing at this entire thing. Bro comes up in one of the biggest spots of his career. He's 0 for 4 on the night, and all of a sudden he's the hero. I'm gonna be honest, I watched that replay a few times. I didn't even really feel like he was sprinting to first. Like I think he had no idea that the game was over until he saw fans cheering. And then it's like hilarious. They're like interviewing him after the game. I'm like, no offense, but this guy didn't really do a lot.
Hey,
You
they don't
know?
ask you how you do it as long as you do it. He was only halfway up the line when Kerkering picked up the ball, but it's just the pressure of the moment. You know, you just made an error. He's in his head because he walked the last batter on 6 pitches. He gets a little dribbler back to him and messes it. What are you going to do? Oh, I got to throw it home. That's just kind of where your mind goes. And it's really unfortunate for Kerkering because he's one of the better relievers in that Phillies pen. And now he's going to be a laughing stock. I had Phillies fans telling me that he should be cut, he should be traded. He is never going to live that down in the city of Philadelphia, especially with those fans.
And I gotta say, credit to the Phillies players. Like it really seemed like everyone was doing everything that they could to console him. But what can you even do? It's like my dad was saying, I was just talking to him before we got on here, and he was like saying, like almost imitating the players, like, oh, don't worry, that's not going to be on social media anywhere. Oh, don't worry, no one's going to see that. Like, yeah, that one's going to stick with you for a while. But honestly, to be fair, the Phillies could have done more to continue this series. I still don't know if they would have won it, but they could have kept this going, and it wasn't all this guy's fault. Let's just talk about this game because it really was wild and it wasn't just the ending. I mean, it really all starts in the top of the seventh. Phils get their first run. Castellanos drives in the first Phillies run. Okay, they have a 1-0 lead. And you can already see the way this game is going, right? Bottom of the seventh, Dodgers fire back. And I will say this is something I have noticed since last year with the Dodgers, and I'm sure it predates that. The Dodgers are the kind of team that always have an answer, it feels like. It feels like they're always firing back no matter what kind of lead you have. They're really never out of it. In any case, Dodgers, it becomes a 1-1 game. Enrique Hernandez singled, which really started something. I wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a big, big hit. Johan Duran comes in to pitch with one out in the seventh, which admittedly is a tall task. Pages grounds out, which moves the batters. He's the hero in more ways than one tonight. Ohtani is intentionally walked, and then Mookie Betts gets the walk, and Dodgers score the tying run off of a walk. I mean, I have to say credit to Duran because he had a great performance after that, but that felt like a turning point, at least to me, when you're seeing that the Phillies walked in a run. You just can't do that in that kind of spot.
The baseball nerd in me loved that at bat. Duran, who's one of the most powerful closers in the game, facing a veteran hitter in Betts, he was forcing that fastball up and in, and Mookie was swinging at it. And then after a while, he started to realize they needed to take it. And that 3-2 pitch was a sinker up and in, just right at about the letters, just a little high. And Mookie having the veteran presence to take it at 104 miles an hour was really impressive to me.
He had guts to do that, man. Not everyone could. I felt the exact same way. And I mean, you go into the eighth and the ninth inning, masterclasses in pitching, particularly by Sasaki, but it really was on both sides of the ball. I'm just going to credit Sasaki, though, and take a beat on him, though. 9 up, 9 down from the eighth to the 10th inning is disgusting. And I didn't like, honestly, I should have known this, but I didn't realize until tonight quite how young this man is. Like just out there, cool, calm, and collected. It was crazy.
It's why he was one of the most highly touted prospects in baseball coming over from Japan. And it was really interesting to see Dave Roberts go to Roki Sasaki in that spot because the Dodger bullpen has been so bad. And it's been what's been their, downfall for a while now. And a lot of people were talking about how, oh, this Dodgers team isn't like the Dodgers of years past because of how weak this bullpen has been. But moving Sasaki to the pen this playoff run, he's been nails. And that's something that you really need. A guy you can trust, especially a guy that young who has starter capability to give you 3 innings like he did tonight. If you have a guy like that in the bullpen, you are definitely going to succeed. And it proved.
Totally agree. Bottom of the 10th, Luzardo comes in. Great job again. 3 up, 3 down against Ohtani, Betts, and Hernandez. And that duel against Ohtani, I want to say was 3 strikes in a row. I think that was a 3 pitch at bat. That's pretty nasty in a bottom 10 situation.
It was, and it was a perfect pitch too, right on the low and outside corner. Otani's not touching that, especially a
No.
sweeper.
Yep, totally agree. Top of the 11th, we see Alex Vesia pitching for the Dodgers. Harper walked, and I'll be honest, in my mind, I felt like that could have been it. Bader comes in, and he struck out on a 10 pitch at bat. Um, I mean, beyond obviously getting a hit there, I actually think that's the best he could have done. I thought he really dueled. I thought he really battled in there. Great job again by pitching, and it just shows you what kind of game this was.
Yeah, Alex Vesia has been that guy for Dave Roberts to go to in big spots. That Harper walk was a pitch that was right there. Maybe next year with AVS, he might have got the benefit of the doubt. But then to, get Bohm to line out and then facing Bader and gave him everything he had, was just going back and forth, sinker, sweeper, and then finally got him to chase. That was huge.
Totally agree. Then bottom of the 11th, I mean, you know what happened at this point. I think Phillies fans are probably beside themselves right now. But if it's any consolation, I don't think they were going to win anyway. It was a bad way to lose, But don't tell me that they were winning this series. Listen, I know people are going to say they would have headed back to Philadelphia. I understand all of that, but I'm going to say it. And I thought this going into tonight, but I feel that seeing the way that the Dodgers have played in the playoffs confirmed this for me. Top to bottom, this is really one of, if not the most talented roster in all of Major League Baseball. That's just my opinion.
One of the most talented rosters in baseball history, just in terms of 1 to 9 talent in that batting order. But the Phillies, you talk about it, the Phillies were not built to win games like this. You saw it all year long. The Phillies' MO has been offense. Offense here, offense there, scoring runs at an easy clip. And when you face a good team like the Dodgers, whose pitching really stepped up in this series, all these games were close, except for the game three where the Phillies offense finally exploded. But you go down the line. Game one, they only scored 3 runs. Game two, they only scored 3 runs. Game four, they score one. That's really been the story, and that was why the Phillies really struggled, was because, like we talked about, the top five of that order didn't really come through like they did all season long, and then when push came to shove, they couldn't come through in the big moments.
Dan, I don't think anyone is sitting here denying the fact that this in particular was a heavyweight matchup. I think the Phillies have a bright future. I think the Phillies had a good team this year. But if you are a Phillies fan walking away from their season this year, what is one of the biggest changes that you think they need to make here in the offseason?
See, I'd actually disagree with you. I think that this was the Phillies' last big chance to really come through with this core because Kyle Schwarber's a free agent this offseason and is probably going to go get a bag somewhere based on the seasons that he's had. So you're going to lose that big piece of your lineup. And also, your rotation has been shaky for now for a couple of years. Aaron Nola has lost his touch. He's basically become the fourth starter in that rotation. It just seems like the Phillies that we knew for the past few years, the ones that went to the World Series in 22, the ones that competed, the ones that got eliminated by the Mets last year, they're kind of fading out. And this team has a lot of question marks to fill, especially in the rotation.
Can't argue with you there. For the Dodgers, obviously the road continues. Anything there that you take away as a big positive from tonight moving forward?
I think it's just that your bullpen is finally showing some signs of consistency and success because this Dodger bullpen was their demise in all of September, and it almost cost them the division. And it's a good reason, it's a good thing to see for Dave Roberts that Vesia and now Sasaki and even all the other guys that are in there are finally succeeding at a level that you need them to repeat as world champions.
All of a sudden started to break up there a little bit with you, so we'll see how that continues. We can always just cut it short, but for now, I think we're rocking and rolling. Um, One final note on the Dodgers, and then we'll move on to a little bit of Yankees talk that we didn't get the chance to get to. Sorry, we have other full-time jobs, but we're going to talk about it now. The one other thing that I wanted to say was when you think about the Dodgers, if you had to put a percent chance on it, what do you think is the percentage here that the Dodgers go on and win the World Series?
It's tough to say because there's still a lot of teams left. And there's a lot of interesting teams still in the AL. But I've been saying it from the jump that I think whoever comes out of the NL is going to win the World Series just because of the strength of the NL compared to the AL. And I feel like the Dodgers are the favorites to come out of the NL right now. The Cubs and the Brewers both have not impressed me. It's looking like they're going to be playing in a game five. The Dodgers will have that extra day of rest. I would put the Dodgers winning the World Series at a pretty high level. I'd almost put it at 50%.
I'm gonna actually even go 75. But
Wow.
I like the fact that you say 50 just because I think that in baseball there is just so much parity that anything can happen. But I don't know, man. The way that they've been rolling and cruising, I'm feeling a repeat coming, but we'll see if I end up being right or wrong. Drop in the comments what you think's gonna happen. And if you're a Dodgers fan, what percent chance would you give them to win the World Series? All right, we're gonna talk about the Yankees a little bit too here, since we obviously are New Yorkers. And as Mets fans, it's just it's sort of a hate watch situation for us, really no way around that. Dan, the Yankees are no longer playing in the playoffs. It was the end of the road for them. Lost to the Blue Jays in 4 games. What did you think overall? What did you think?
That's a real shame. That's what I think. No, in all seriousness, the Yankees were just swinging a little bit over their weight class, it seemed. And the Blue Jays just had the Yankees number all season long. They won 8 out of 13 in the regular season. And there was a lot of bad blood there all season long. And when divisional teams match up in the playoffs, usually It's the one that just figures out those little things on how to beat your opponent is kind of who comes out on top. And it was very clear that Toronto knew how to beat the Yankees. And that was very clear. And that was to attack early. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had one of the best postseason series of all time against the Yankees. He homered in almost every game, excluding game four. When you have that kind of, output in your lineup, it's going to be a good day no matter what if you're Toronto. And, they paid him. A lot of people comparing that situation to the Pete Alonso situation. The Blue Jays finally caved. They gave Vladdy 500 million. What did he do in his first playoff run with a big contract? He came through in all those big spots. So it was really just Vladimir Guerrero and then just the depth of the Blue Jays offense really carrying them. The Yankees just couldn't compete and couldn't put up 23 runs in the first two games. That's almost impossible.
I think that you make a good point, though, just talking about Guerrero and his performance. No one's sitting here saying that he didn't have a great supporting cast because there certainly was depth in that lineup. That being said, sometimes I think people overcomplicate this. I think a lot of the times in these series, part of it is just a battle of the stars. And I understand the fact that Aaron Judge had a magical swing and they are going to talk about it for a while. But come on, man. Guerrero outplayed him. It's really as simple as that. It was an amazing swing. I saw the pitch, I saw the stats, I saw the metrics. It was unlikely. It was an improbable swing. But we're not going to be sitting here saying that that's going to be some crazy part of his legacy when they literally lost the next game, right?
I thought that call by Joe Davis was so corny, talking about if he comes through, it's his moment, and it hit the pole. Aaron Judge has more postseason home runs than that, and arguably better ones. He hit the game-tying home run off Clase last year in that one game against the Guardians. That's his postseason moment, if we're really going to talk about that. So I thought that was kind of ridiculous, and obviously, the jokes like to go to, oh, well, Aaron Judge is Mr. Low Leverage. He can't compete in October. But he even did. Honestly, his stats at the end of the playoff run weren't that bad for Aaron Judge. It was really the rest of the lineup didn't really do anything.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, listen, I do think for a while he was Mr. Single until he did get that home run, and I do think that it was needed. But I agree. I saw his postseason stats at the end. He obviously was getting on base a ton. For the whole Joe Davis, I will say I happen to think that Joe Davis is an incredible announcer.
Oh, I do too.
I know what you mean, but a part of me, I thought about that a lot. Like, how did I feel about that call? But it must be hard if you're Joe Davis to decide in that moment how much to play it up because how does he know what's going to happen in game four? It could have ended up being a bigger moment if the Yankees went on and won. So I guess that's hard to say, but I hear both sides of that argument. I mean, listen, I think if you're a Yankees fan, you're in a pretty bad place right now. Just because you're seeing time and time again the prime years of Aaron Judge just being wasted. A lineup that always feels like they have what could be it, and then they don't. I mean, I just think that if you're a Yankees fan, your standards are incredibly high, and those standards don't align with your last World Series championship being 2007. They just don't.
2009. But yeah, it's the
2009,
same
sorry.
concept. It's just Yankee fans every year, it's the same exact story. They do just enough to have the fan base convinced that this is the year, this is the team. I'd argue that this Yankees team, 1 through 9, is the best lineup they've had in the past decade to have a chance to go win the World Series. But this year it was the bullpen. The bullpen did not succeed. Camilo Doval ended up being a terrible acquisition. Devin Williams was not good. It just didn't go well for them in that front. And it's just one of those things with the Yankees every year where the expectations are so high because they make the playoffs every year. But at some point, it's just got to hit a point where you realize that this team is not built for playoff success. And it just hasn't been.
How do you fix that though? Like honestly, I'm just curious your opinion because Ashley and I have talked about this a lot and we haven't gotten your opinion. Is it an Aaron Boone situation? Is it a
It's
lineup situation, configuration? What?
It's really hard to say. And honestly, the best way I can describe it, I think, is it's just a culture thing. Like, I think
Mm.
Aaron Boone doesn't do that great of a job as a manager. But then again, I also think that Aaron Boone is kind of just a puppet. I think that Brian Cashman is the one that's kind of making the lineup decisions, doing all the hard-hitting moves, and Aaron Boone is kind of just the figurehead for that. That's just kind of the state of baseball now, especially with analytics taking a bigger role. So I think it's just tough to say that the Yankees don't have leadership because it's just a new style of baseball that they've been trying to do that just doesn't work. And I think, it's bringing in players too that I think just you need to bring in players that fit that Yankee kind of mindset and can play under the pressure. Like you saw the outrage that with Jazz Chisholm, where he was yawning during I think he was yawning during game 3. They just caught him on a camera and he was yawning in the middle of a play.
Yep.
And just stuff like that. Like the New York media is going to eat you up and chew you out every single time that happens. And it's just one of those things with the Yankees where every single year there's always a scapegoat. People will blame Cashman. People will blame Steinbrenner. People will blame Boone. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of where the Yankees are and how content they are with that. And I feel like that's what Hal Steinbrenner is kind of at this point. The Yankees will always make money. They're always going to draw a crowd at Yankee Stadium. It's just not putting in that extra effort like Steve Cohen might.
Well, beyond that, I'm gonna be honest, last year and this year, I didn't really feel like the Yankees wanted it. Like there was a piece of heart that felt missing for me. And I don't know if with the Blue Jays it's just because, it's been a long time since they've been in this position, but to me it seemed like Guerrero was not going to let that opportunity slip no matter what. And I'm not sitting here necessarily saying that the Yankees come out with excuses, but it almost seems like sometimes if I was a Yankees fan, I'd actually want to see more anger. I'd want to see a little more passion, some impassioned players, some meetings happening behind closed doors. I'm not seeing those sorts of things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And I think that kind of dials back to what I was saying about the Yankee culture, dialing back to the Steinbrenner argument, because that's what I hear a lot from Yankee fans. Back in the day, George Steinbrenner used to spend money like it was nothing, like Steve Cohen kind of does. When he was mad about something, and I think this is what's going to happen with the Mets this offseason, is where they're just going to overspend and he's just going to go make as many acquisitions as possible to kind of reset things and kind of create a whole new team and create a whole new identity that can go win a World Series. With Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankees, it's been the same story every year. The Yankees could have very easily upped their offer for Juan Soto, made another offer, and probably brought him back this offseason, but Hal Steinbrenner didn't want to go over the luxury tax. Steve Cohen has been very open about not wanting to. Hal Steinbrenner has been staying put in that spot. And that's what keeps happening is when other teams are spending more than you and you're not the big bad Yankees anymore, you still have that chip on your shoulder though. When a smaller market team like Toronto comes to play you in the playoffs, they still see you as those big bad Yankees when in reality you're just not.
That's so true. This is the last thing I'll say that we can wrap it up and get out of here. Today, literally today on my Twitter timeline, for the first time, I saw what I know to be a Yankees fan Twitter account saying, I'll say it. I'll be honest. I miss Juan Soto. And honestly, that brought me great joy. Listen, the Mets clearly aren't going to be the team that wins the World Series this year, but y'all aren't either. And a part of the reason why is because you did not bring back Juan Soto. Like it or not, that's just the truth.
Exactly. You needed somebody to come through in big spots. Last year it was Giancarlo Stanton. This year it was no one.
Well, there you go. Everyone, thank you so much, as always, for joining us for another episode of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. We've really, really appreciated all of the support, especially the support that we've gotten in this past month. We're starting to see different fan bases coming in. We have eclipsed that 10,000 subscriber mark. So sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate you following along, even though we've stopped talking about the Mets. More baseball to come, and we will see you back here when the next big thing happens.